Alright guys, so let's have a chat about evolution. And to start with, we'll talk about some vocabulary, we'll give a bit of an introduction just so we know what we're talking about. Now, our learning goal today is to be able to develop the basic vocabulary we need to discuss evolution. And we'll know we've succeeded if we're able to use these terms in a discussion in the right context. So make sure you're paying attention to where what these words all mean and so forth. So, first word, biodiversity. Basically, it's the variety of plant life and animal life and fungi and bacteria in a particular environment. Okay, so we can talk about a really small environment, biodiversity of the garden, to the biodiversity of the entire rainforest, to the biodiversity of the entire continent. High biodiversity usually considered much more desirable, and that's because it's more likely to survive. It'll be hardier. It's more likely to survive if there are any major challenges. So the word species, and over here we have a bunch of different species of finches, and we'll get into more about these later on. What species is. Basically, a species is a group of living organisms consisting of similar enough individuals that they can interbreed, which means they can A, have offspring, okay, and have fertile offspring. So an adaptation. An adaptation is very, very simple. An adaptation is a change in an organism to suit its location. It is not a change which was designed or decided upon. It's a change that is a mutation in the genes, a random mutation, and it just happened to suit its environment better than the alternative. And this can then be passed on to the next generation. So, over here, for example, we're seeing a bunch of finches. Okay, we have a founder species. This is what the finches originally looked like. But here we have an adaptation of the Nihoa finch, which has a very large, strong beak. And this is really good for eating seeds and bird eggs. We've got the Maori parrot bull, which is really, really good at catching insects with its long, curved beak. And again, over here, and here we have a nectar eater, which means it needs that very, very long beak to go into the center of a plant, and over here as well. So we can see that there are real variations. Now, these are adaptations, which meant it was more able to survive in a certain location. A fossil. What's a fossil? Basically, it's the remains or impression of an organism that has since died out. Can be preserved in rock, or petrified, or embedded in rock or amber, or just be left there as a pile, and if it's not decayed, eventually we'll find it. Extinct, what does it mean? Basically, it means the entire species, all breeding population, are no longer capable of survival. Not necessarily dead. There are animals still alive today which are not able to sustain a population because there are not enough of them, and even though there are still a few alive, they are counted as extinct. And extinction is what's called when you're becoming extinct. Extant is a population that is still able to survive going forward. So humans are extant, but Homo habilis, one of our early ancestors, is extinct. And our last one we're going to look at for this is evolution. Basically, it's the change in things which we can inherit. So the heritable characteristics, these are our genes and alleles, of a population over successive generations. So it's not an individual, it's an entire population and how it changes over multiple generations. And it's this process that gives rise to biodiversity. And it's caused by natural selection. So you can have an adaptation which is ideal, and the animal or plant with that adaptation is more likely to survive, will have more children, and therefore it will start to look more and more like that, like the population will look more and more like that as time goes on. And again, a population changes, not an individual. So I hope that made a lot of sense. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye now.